In our second reading today from St. Paul to the Corinthians, he speaks to us of the love of Christ, the love that impels us forward, that changes us from who we were into who we have become. By our baptisms, we have been changed into new people, and we have been claimed by Christ, and we are no longer just bodily, but we are spiritual as well. In a very real way, the love of Christ changes who we are. That as Catholics, as Christians, we believe that baptism imprints an indelible mark on our souls. That we are no longer children of the world, but we truly become the sons and daughters, adopted sons and daughters, but sons and daughters no less of God Almighty. And yet we struggle with life. We struggle with sin. We struggle to love one another as Christ loves us. We struggle as the apostles did in the boat in today's gospel. They were in the presence of Christ. They had witnessed all of these miracles. They had been his closest friends. And yet they were afraid. Lord, do you not care that we are perishing? They're like going to your best friends. Do you not care that I'm about to die here, man? It's kind of how they approached the Lord. And the Lord, any time that the apostles struggled in faith, responds very similarly as he does today. Do you not yet have faith, O ye of little faith? We hear Christ many times responding when the apostles don't act out of their faith in a very similar way, because faith is a gift given to us by God. But as a gift, it has to be utilized and practiced and put into practice to become a great skill. That if we don't practice it, as we don't practice the love of God that he offers to us, then we can't really utilize that skill. So many times Christ comes to us with the same words that he came to rebuke the waves. Be quiet, be still. For many times in life, we are so distracted by things that don't really have any real significance, that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. We allow shiny party tricks sometimes to distract us from what really matters in life. And what really matters in life isn't this life, but the life to come, and what we are doing to prepare ourselves for it. Because we have been impelled by the love of Christ, it seeks for us to embrace his love in every moment, in every fashion, in every way, and in every time. The problem, though, is we are kind of hard-headed at times, you know. We don't get it the first time, or the second time, or the 15 millionth time sometimes, and there's no question then when the disciples come to Jesus and ask him, how many times must we forgive? What does he say? Depending on the gospel, either 77 times or 70 times 7 times. Forgive until you don't have to forgive anymore. Listen and change until you don't have to listen and change anymore, until it actually makes a difference in your life and it changes and conforms your heart. Keep trying at it. Oh, but Father, I hate going to confession because I confess the same things over and over and over. Keep trying. Keep struggling. To struggle is not a bad thing. To struggle is to seek to perfect something in our lives. And so if we struggle in and through sin, we are seeking to be less of us and more of Christ, which is what we are called to do as sons and daughters of God. To die to self and to rise with Christ. We live in such a world that is so loud, that's so distracting. You know, I'll never forget when I was in high school, one of the theology teachers came in and said, we're going to do a test real quick. We're going to be silent for a moment. And after that short silence, he said, how long do you think we were quiet there? Some said minute and a half. Some said 5 minutes. Some said it felt like forever. He said we were silent for 10 seconds. How uncomfortable do we become in the silence? And yet we forget that many times that's where Christ seeks to speak to us, in the silence. Now, being an extrovert, that was a hard lesson to learn. In seminary, we would have multiple times a year where we'd have silent retreats. You should have seen me revolt the first time. We had our Ash Wednesday retreat, 3 days of silence. 3 minutes in, I'm like, I'm done. Let me listen to music, let me watch TV, let me do something, I'm done. And yet the longer that it lasted, the more I realized the importance of that silence. Because I didn't allow myself to be distracted by those things that I had typically focused on. And instead, I had to actually focus on the things that I didn't want to focus on. So those things in my life that I ran away from, those things that I try and block out in life, those traumas of childhood, those sins that are habitual, those what-ifs that I had played over and over in my mind that never would be, so why even focus on them? Now, Christ was telling me something, as he's telling each and every one of us, that it is important to be quiet and to be still. It's one of those things that as kids, we don't learn. As kids, all we're taught is shh. We don't know why, except that we're told shh. And I get asked on almost a weekly basis, both here at the parish or in other settings as a priest, Father, I hate bringing my kids to Mass. Do I have to bring them to church? To which I say, you don't have to do anything. I want you to bring your kids to church, and so does God. But Father, they're so distracting, they're so loud. So's the rest of the world. Where are they going to learn to be quiet if not here in church? And if they can't learn to be quiet here in church, how are you preparing them to be quiet at home? I'll never forget my second year as a priest. I went up to Tulsa to be on the Catholic Man Show with Adam Minahan and David Niles, which are on Catholic radio here in Oklahoma. And I got to witness their evening ritual with their kids, where with David Niles, he would go up to this little chapel that he set up with an altar inside of his house. He had a little pray-do there, a kneeler. And he had the Bible and some candles and some religious articles on the altar, and they all knelt before the altar every night in prayer. And it was the most chaotic thing I've ever seen in my life. Because as much as they tried, the kids would get distracted, but the kids were distracted in love. Because they had a time where they would pray about different things that they needed in life. And so for us as adults, it's like we want to pray for peace in the world, or for the pros of the soul of so-and-so, or for this to go well. I want to pray that Janie gets that toy that she wanted for Christmas. And I want to pray that so-and-so stops being a bully at school. And then sometimes it got a little more deep and a little more deep. And sometimes it got a little more ridiculous. I want to pray that my parents don't make me go to bed on time tonight. And sometimes we have those childhood mentalities about us, right? And yet, in the midst of the chaos, how awesome is it that these parents brought their kids before the Lord? That they were teaching them outside of church, God forbid, outside of church, how to act in church. How to be still, how to be silent, but also how to be prayer-filled. Because for many of us, we struggle to pray with each other, for each other, without each other. And so we don't know how to really act in church. One of the beauties of the Second Vatican Council is it really emulated and elevated the fact that we were supposed to be active, conscious participants in the liturgy. Active, do what you're supposed to do, say what you're supposed to say. Conscious, don't fall asleep during Father's homily. Good luck. But also we're called to participate in as much as we can. If you know the words, say them. If you know the words, sing them. If not, bring out a book. Participate in the ways that you can. If you know the creed, say the creed. If not, open the front of the missal. It's in the front of the book. Participate. Be present. Be active. Not just here, though, but outside of these walls. Be active and participate in the world as a child of God. The love that Christ offers us through our baptism is not supposed to remain within inside of us, but is to burn ever new and ever richer every moment of our lives. We can't hide it under a bushel basket on a hill. We have to bring it with us everywhere we go. As tacky as it was when I was at Corpus Christi, one of their favorite hymns to sing was This Little Light of Mine. As a kid, I loved it. As an adult, I'm like, oh, come on. But when you listen to the words of it, you begin to see how beautiful it is. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Do we let the light of Christ that dwells within us shine? Or do we stifle it? Do we make it be quiet? Do we make it be still? So that sin can instead run rampant instead of the love of Christ that can truly offer us the peace in life that it is that we are seeking to embrace. So my brothers and sisters today, allow the love of Christ that was first given to you at baptism in a very real way, that put that indelible mark on your soul, be allowed to shine bright. So the only thing in your life that you're being quiet and being still towards, that you're quieting the sins of your life and the distractions of your life, and you're being still to be able to hear the whisper of the Lord in your heart and in your soul. Because God does speak to us on a daily basis. But many times we're so distracted that we can't understand it. We aren't attuned to his voice. And so we run from it when we hear it that first time. Come to Father and say, Father, something weird happened. You will not believe what just happened to me today. What happened? I was just sitting there minding my own business, and out of nowhere, I felt this call from God to go do something. Okay, well, what did God tell you to do? Because sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not, of course. Well, God told me that I should probably spend more time in prayer in church. I said, that's from God. Well, God told me that, this relationship that I'm in, it's not the most virtuous relationship, and he told me I should probably take a step back. That's from God. Well, I've been married for 35 years, Father, and God put this person in my life that's new, and I think he's trying to tell me that I'm supposed to go after that new relationship. That's not from God. But the more attuned we come to the voice of God, the more we can be distinguishing if it's coming from him or if it's coming from the evil one. Because the evil one is trying to speak to us as that loud, annoying child next to us sometimes does. And unfortunately, we listen to it. We fall to sin. We allow ourselves to be distracted from what really matters. And ultimately, what matters? The love of God. How do we embrace it? How do we live it out? That's it. Embrace God's love. Live it out. Be quiet. Be still. Do his will. And everything else will work itself out.